And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Thank you for hanging out while we get our shit together. Today is not bad either. Only 5 minutes after the hour. So I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. Let me give out the toll-free number again if you were just tuning in. It is 888-659-3727. Okay. How does that sound now, Joe?
The sound is fine. During the intro, it sounded like the music was on a slight fast forward, like it was catching up. And before that, when you were speaking, it did that strange compression thing that we used to experience when we were using Skype.
Okay.
For just a moment.
All right. Now
everything's fine since then.
All right. It's possible. Who knows what's going on? But right now it's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, toll free, 888-659-3727. Great to be here. We are the Hair Loss Guys. I am so, I was about to say blessed, as corny as that seems and sounds. Every time I sit behind this mic and I realize what we have been able to accomplish over the last 20 years, fuck the guys that, and all the haters out there. But, when I go on Instagram and I'm being, instant message through Facebook, and people are contacting me through the Bald Truth and through Bald Truth Talk, or contacting us through the IHRS or the American Hair Loss Association, thanking us for this program. I realize it's all worth it every week, with all the technical problems, with all the bullshit, with all the haters, with all the, we're going to, first of all, before we get into it, I want Joe to actually mention some of the guys that actually, in this industry, believe it or not, who actually support our message as opposed to seeing it as competition. And I will tell you something today, Joe. I had a very interesting interaction with somebody who happens to be, in another country, who I'm trying to be very nice to, but for some reason appears to have a chip on his shoulder and does not appreciate what we do or what I do, and is essentially doing whatever he can to make things less pleasant than it should be. Not that he's going out of his way to...
Well, that's just unfortunate.
Not that he's going out of his way to, not get things done for what we need to get done, but it's just, I don't understand it. I don't understand people. We're so nice.
Usually, not always.
Well, you know what? We're honest.
Sometimes we can be... Well, that's the thing. We're honest, and we don't really play the politics very well. We can if we want to, but it's not our thing. The politics isn't. Get enough of that on nightly news.
Yes.
And online with politics.
Yeah.
I don't like dealing with it in my day-to-day life, which is my work.
This has to be a politic-free zone.
Not a fan.
Now, I'm having some issues. I don't know if it's our new hookup. I don't know if it's your internet. I don't know if it's our software. It's okay right now, but I see what you're talking about. There's like a slight delay, and then it gets a little compressed. Yeah,
and I saw myself kind of jittering around there a little bit. Let me run a speed test real quick. Make sure that I've got a good connection.
And guys, hold on. We'll take your calls. Guys are holding on now. 888-659-3727. This is the Hair Loss Show. And if you're new to the broadcast, just tuning in, and if you're just finding us on the internet by chance, if you're listening or if you're watching us, I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I am also the founder and director of Consumer Patient Affairs, which actually means something, of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. What we are doing now in this cesspool of an industry, and we've been, really trying to straighten things out for the last 20 years, made a tremendous amount of progress. And now, because of the completely different environment that has evolved or devolved, whoever you ask, in this field, it has become more difficult than ever before for people to not only figure out what's going to help them with their hair loss, but the surgery side of things has fucking run amok. So what we are doing now is more important than ever before. And honestly, as I do some research, I'm looking up and I'm seeing all the ads that are coming across Facebook and Instagram, and take surgery out of the picture. Just the bullshit now and the en masse that we are seeing as far as lotions and potions, we are literally back in 1989.
Amazing.
As far as all the promotion, man. Yeah, you are like, what is that guy? Headroom? Max Headroom?
Max Headroom. Yeah. Great. So what's the back like? Yeah, it looks like, yeah, that's no good.
All right, it's okay now. So why don't you give out the websites? Let's see what we can do. We'll take some phone calls.
All right. Well, first up, we got, let's start with our Italian friends. That's bellicapelli.forumfree.it. It is an Italian-based hair loss and hair restoration forum where clinics are showing off the results and patients are sharing their experiences. It's a fantastic forum, a lot of support among the members there. And the owner of the forum is a big supporter of what we do and a believer in our message. He's an old friend of mine, repair patient just like myself, and he's one of the good guys. That's bellicapelli.forumfree.it. Next up, we got international-hairlossforum.com. That is the French hair loss and hair restoration forum. And they also have clinics that share their results and patients that share their experiences. There's some really good threads on there that are just like on the Italian forum that are very long-lived threads that go on for multiple pages, sometimes 20 or 30 pages or more, where patients are really documenting their results. So a wealth of information of patients sharing. That is international-hairlossforum.com. And finally, we've got the British UK hair loss and hair restoration forum. That is hairlossexperiences.com. Another friend of the show, another friend of mine and friend of Spencer's, a repair patient like myself that does a lot of great work behind the scenes, helping patients find solutions for their repair work needs. That's hairlossexperiences.com.
I am trying to get this worked out with Andrea, basically saying that software is fucking up, and let's see if we can fix it on the fly. But yeah, guys, I want to thank I want to thank you guys for really supporting what we do. It is very rare to find allies in this field. It is every fucking gorilla for themselves. And as instead of everyone getting together who have visible resources on the internet where consumers, yes, you are consumers of hair loss and hair transplants, are trying to get information. People are really suffering. Instead of everyone getting together and trying to get a cohesive message out there, it is fucking dog eat dog. And it always has been since the very first day I stepped into this fucking arena. So not only were we fighting the bad doctors and the clinics, but as soon as the IAHS was launched, it was a all, full frontal fucking attack, man. It was a blitz by people who owned message forums. I mean, it was just nuts. Absolutely nuts.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So, it was amazing. But the thing is, it's still happening. It's happening. Yeah, it's happening behind the scenes. It's still happening. I mean, it's fucking crazy, man. It's never ending.
It is.
So here's the reality for anyone who is using online resources. You have to take them all with a grain of salt. I even say Bald Truth Talk, which is our message forum. Now, we try to provide you everything that we can free of charge. And we try to provide you with, guide you in a safe direction. But there are bad players out there who will leverage these forums. And sometimes they even find their way onto ours. And sometimes it takes us a while before we figure it out. And they are trying to guide you in an unsafe direction, control the flow of information. Some forums will attempt to control the flow of information in order to exact some sort of control over the physicians that are actually sponsoring these sites. The whole thing is a mess. So when you go on these places and you read this information, you really need to understand that it's not always something that's going to help you. It's not always valid information. If there's a lot of moderators who are on forums who are interacting with users, I personally think that's a really bad idea. Moderators should not control the flow of information and interact with users on an open message forum. Moderators should be there to moderate, remove spam, clean shit up, and fucking stay silent.
Absolutely.
Period. To inject their biased attitudes or opinions. And believe me, everyone's biased. If you're in this business, you have some sort of bias. But to put that out there for public consumption is really, in the way in which it's being done, is just, it's repugnant in my view. And just because someone is paying you to be a part of your resource does not mean you could promote the shit out of them about, when it comes to things they don't even know that, if you don't even know if they're good at doing it yet. That came out kind of weird, but you know what I'm talking about, Joe.
I know what you're talking about.
I mean, shit. Yeah. I have, how many guys who are in the IHS who are selling laser helmets and laser caps, and I'm just like, I wouldn't buy one because that's the truth. And one thing I learned about the truth is, the haters latch onto it and you make a lot of enemies. But in the end, if you actually stick to the truth and you are actually truly transparent, you win. You can't fucking lose. It's when you're working out of fear and you're putting out negative social proof and you're trying to destroy other people's reputations, whether it's physicians or your so-called competition, whatever it is, that's when you fail.
Yep, 100%.
So we're going to get to your calls in a second, but some very interesting news came out this week. And it was a pretty compelling report, which I actually knew was happening because there was a book that was written several years ago. And the name of that book, I have it right here as a matter of fact, is Bottle of Lies. And it was really essentially it's by this woman, Catherine Eban, who is truly a consumer advocate when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry. And it's her contention, the contention of many people in this field, that there has been a lot of nonsense going on with the generic drugs that the FDA claims is being fully regulated and vetted by essentially a handful of people at the FDA. And somehow what's been happening is a lot of these drugs we are finding once they're tested and even in the marketplace are not exactly what the FDA claims that they are, frankly, because the FDA really doesn't know what they are. The job of the FDA is to go and to inspect these facilities, whether they're in India or other places overseas. And what's interesting about these inspections is that these facilities are given a heads up that these inspections are going to occur months in advance.
They're supposed to be pop inspections.
Right.
Surprise inspections, but they're not a surprise.
Exactly.
A few bucks are slid under the table. Hey, you got a investigation coming up or a inspection coming up. Look out for it.
Right, and then and there's a reason for that. Obviously, it's I don't want to get into the money trail, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. But the bottom line is there's a tremendous amount of corruption. There has been out and out fraud when it comes to several of these generic pharmaceutical companies. Now it's coming out that a larger majority of generic drugs, and we're not just talking about drugs for hair loss, but it definitely does prove our point, that are coming from these pharmaceutical companies that are claimed to make exact replicas of brand names. They're not so exact. And it's not just the difference in fillers. It's not just the difference in byproduct. Essentially, some of these drugs have a minimal dose of the true molecular value of what the drug is supposed to have. And there are people out there who are dying. There was one case that was highlighted on CBS News last week of a guy who had a heart transplant. And there's a list of drugs in this particular, and I don't have this in front of me, but there's a list of drugs in this particular, I think it's the Cleveland Clinic, a list of generics that doctors definitely don't recommend because they've realized over the years that the people who were given those generics seem to have had a higher rejection rate.
I can actually read that part of the story. I got it right in front of me.
That'd be great because I am just rambling off the top of my head about this story. Yeah.
When CBS News' Anna Werner met Cedric Brown, who's a patient in this for this piece, he was in the hospital for a foot infection, a big improvement from 7 years ago when his heart failed and he underwent a heart transplant. The operation was a success, but months later, Brown's condition deteriorated, and he went back to the Cleveland Clinic where Dr. Randall Starling found Brown's body was rejecting his new heart. Starling discovered that the brand name anti-rejection drug that the patient had been taking, called Prograf, had been switched for a generic manufactured in India. When Starling looked at the bottle, he immediately has questions because that particular drug is on a list of generic medications his hospital tries to avoid prescribing to its patients. The FDA said, quote, a generic medicine is the same as brand name medicine in dosage, safety, and quality, unquote. But experts at the Cleveland Clinic have determined some generics aren't a close enough match for their comfort, that even a small variance in the drug may pose serious risk for some patients. This is, I can't say the nail in the coffin. Well, actually, I can say this is the nail in the coffin for me as far as the debate between generics and name brand drugs across the board being the same. I've had so many people come out and, on message boards or on my, in the comments of a couple of my YouTube videos saying that I'm fear mongering. You've had it for many years as well. You're on the payroll of big pharma, all that bullshit. This is the nail in the coffin on that. I've said it for years. I noticed it in 2006. My first patient that I was dealing with had this same issue when he switched from his name brand Proscar to generic Finasteride. And I've dealt with hundreds of people since. And the stories in this piece, or the references in this piece, mirror exactly the type of experiences that people I've dealt with have gone through. They're fine on the medication, and then their pharmacy switches them to generic without them knowing or without them talking about it. And then I get the phone call, my Finasteride or my Propecia or my Proscar is no longer working. And it keeps going. And this is dealing with the exact same issue with different drugs, but it's still generic versus name brand. So I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. There are generics that I think are worth considering, and people in the chat room or in comments are going to say, well, which one is it? Well, I like Teva. I think Teva is supposed to be a pretty good, pretty reliable manufacturer. They're based in Israel. I've never used it myself, but everyone I've talked to that is using Teva says, yeah, no problems with it. Seems to be working.
I would say Teva Pharmaceuticals is the best pharmaceutical company the maker of generic drugs in the world. And frankly, if I
we have no financial ties to them.
Right. And if I had the choice of using any generic, it would be a Teva generic, period. Yep. I actually I pay more money for my health insurance. I was kind of grandfathered in. This is hard to find now, where I am able to pay a set fee for brand name only. So
nice.
It's relatively small, but I would have paid double. And, the reality is that I will not take any drug if I don't have to that is not generic. If it is currently made as the brand, then that's what I will take. And, I was able to get an insurance policy, a health insurance policy through my business where my employees and myself are able to pay, I think it's $25 for whatever brand, even if the drug costs $1,500, it's $25 in brand. And to me, that was really important. I'd rather pay an extra $2,000 a month or whatever it is, whatever the cost is for that health insurance to ensure that if I need a drug that's supposed to be life-saving for me, that I'm getting the real McCoy. Now, what concerns me is a lot of drugs end up discontinuing, and there are, not a lot, but there are a few drugs because there's so many generics out there that choose to no longer manufacture their product, even if they've been manufacturing for 20 or 30 years. I have that fear when it comes to Merck's Finasteride. And I'm really hoping that they're listening, because the reality is, and we don't know this for a fact, but at least I know that this was never discussed. In one of the original persistent side effect studies, I actually had this guy on the program, guy from George Washington University. His name was Dr. Erwig. And he conducted a study, or a survey, I should say, that really started the ball rolling when it came to long-term persistent adverse side effects or post-finasteride syndrome. He conducted the survey with guys from Propecia Help who were all suffering with these adverse side effects. Now, the question that I have is, what percentage of these guys were using, if in fact they were dealing with these adverse side effects, what percentage of these guys were using brand name as opposed to a generic finasteride? And if they were using generic finasteride, how many different generics were they on before they began to suffer with these persistent adverse side effects? Because in my world, at least the majority of people who have contacted us who are expressing that they had adverse side effects to begin with, but especially those who are claiming to have or think they have long-term adverse side effects, were all on generic. That's it. Now, a few guys who were actually on brand name Propecia throughout the years, at the beginning of my career, did complain of the typical adverse side effects while on the drug. But not a single person until 2006 or end of 2005. That means I was doing this for 6 years before the first report came out. Now, when did finasteride lose its patent? Was it 2000? Was the 5 milligram 2005? 6. Coincidence? I don't know. But a lot of doctors at the time were prescribing a 5 milligram dose of generic finasteride and then telling people to split it into quarters, and they were prescribing that as their hair loss remedy, their hair loss drug. And that is, at least as far as the timing is concerned, when all of this started to come out. Is there a correlation? It seems that way. I don't know, but I would love to see the data. I would absolutely love to see the data. So anyway.
That would be one hell of an interesting write-up if we could find that out.
So the bottom line is that when Joe and I say that we're brand whores, there is a reason for it. Now, we are talking about hair. And obviously that's very important to us. Otherwise, we would not be doing this program. And it's important to a lot of people out there. Otherwise, these drugs wouldn't come to market, and this wouldn't be a $4 billion a year industry. But with that said, imagine if you were prescribed a drug for your heart, or for your liver function, or for any other issue, or generic insulin. Shit you need to stay alive. And you have no fucking clue what you're putting into your body, because the FDA, even though they claim that they're regulating these pharmaceutical companies, really don't have the manpower to make that happen.
Right.
So essentially,
that's the thing. There's so many manufacturers worldwide, and the FDA only has, it's a government, it's a U.S. government resource, so they don't have the manpower to just hop on a plane and go all over the world at a moment's notice to do these inspections. I mean, it's highly trained people that you don't just say, "Hey, Bob, why don't you go?" You don't do that. I mean, these are specialists in the field of pharmaceuticals that go in and they're inspecting the equipment. But the other thing that we didn't mention is that they're relying on what these companies are telling them as far as the data. When these companies are doing the testing for their generics, they're sending the reports to the FDA for them to look over it and to approve it. And back in 2013, there's an Indian company fined millions of dollars. What was it called? Rebaxa?
Rebaxa or something like that. Yeah.
It was, I forgot the name of the company, but Ranbaxy. It paid $500 million penalty as part of a 2013 settlement for selling adulterated drugs and making fraudulent statements to the FDA. So it's not just about, not making the right product and sending it through, or the full product. They're actually lying to the FDA about it, saying, sure, yeah, it's exactly what we said it is and what you guys need, and it's strictly a money grab. I mean, what else could it be? I mean, that's just greed.
Well,
right
listen,
according actively misrepresenting it.
According to CBS and this woman who wrote this book, Yvonne, she said that while the FDA inspectors in the U.S. often show up at plants unannounced, overseas companies are frequently warned weeks, like you said, in advance that inspectors are coming. These inspections that are taking place overseas are essentially staged inspections. They're staged by the companies. And this has been something that I have known about, and that I've actually even spoken about for a while. I mean, I don't bang my drum constantly about it, but the reality is, I wouldn't take a generic if I didn't have to. When you are hospitalized, and that is one of my biggest fucking fears. That's all they give you. You can't ask for brand name in the hospital, so you are given every generic known to fucking man. And even if you're on a brand name drug for years and you're hospitalized, you can't take your own drugs in. Now, you're not supposed to. I can tell you this. My instructions are clear, dude. I'm going to have my advocate right next to me. They're bringing my own fucking drugs. Even if we have to pay off the nurse, she's going to give me brand name of whatever I need when I need it. Luckily, I don't really take anything now except for Finasteride.
I actually believe you got that set up.
Oh, I do.
Sure you do.
I do have it set up. You think I'm crazy? I'm not crazy.
No,
listen,
you're just thorough.
I am thorough. I mean, I may be paranoid, but it doesn't mean people aren't after me.
There's that.
So anyway, guys, it is a very scary situation. And everybody's like, I want to save some money, and on any generic, I maybe will take like a generic benzodiazepam if I decide to take one, if it's available, because you kind of know what's happening right away. But if I needed to take that stuff long term, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Would not happen. 90% or 95% of our drugs in the U.S. now are all made overseas. They're all generic versions of the real McCoy. And everyone that talks about, the greedy drug companies. You know who are the real greedy drug companies? What I don't understand is, once these drug companies lose their patents, these other drug companies can then jump on the wagon and start to manufacture these drugs. Why not just do it correctly? You're still going to make a fortune. And patients are still going to be able to save. Anyway, we will take some phone calls. So that is the truth about what's happening in the world of generics. And that is the reason why we really do believe that, okay, if you start with the generic and you're doing well with it, great. Try to keep that generic. It's difficult, though, because your drug company or your pharmaceutical company, your drugstore, will just change it up on you without you knowing it. So you got to chase it down yourself. But every month, before you get that prescription filled, you ask your pharmacist, you can call in advance, am I having the same the prescription filled with the same drug from the same manufacturer?
Right.
And if they say no, you call around and you find another pharmacy that carries the drug that you were taking and switch, even if you have to drive across town. And I've done that.
Yes, you have. It's a good story.
All right, man. My mind is not with me today. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hello.
Hey, it's Justin from Florida calling.
Hey.
Hey, man, what's happening?
Guys, you know what kind of mood I'm in tonight?
I don't know. A bald truth mood.
Stuff like that. It goes a little bit like this. Mind. Blue looks good on the sky, looks good on that knee. I'm buzzing on the wall, but darling, it don't match your eyes. I'm telling you, you don't need that guy. All right.
What did you just say? What were you singing?
I was singing Keith Urban, man. Come on now.
Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know. You literally are calling us from a swamp somewhere.
It's like if you had a better phone connection, we'd hear you.
Yeah. We love when you call in, though, by the way. So what's happening?
Hey, man, same old, same old. But, hey, summer's coming up. You know what that means? I put my bald head to use in the hot summer sun. Hide your girlfriends, hide your wives. I'm still. I want to.
Good for you.
Yeah, dude. You are. Listen, I know that you are obsessed with people's hairlines. I mean, like you said, your whole culture is. I didn't know that, which is wild to me. But you're a guy who's been able to shave his head. It's interesting. We have, and I spoke about this on the last broadcast. We are doing a live broadcast and recorded sessions at FUE Europe in Manchester in about 3 weeks. And one of the underwriters for the broadcast is Headblade. And while that seems counterintuitive when you're at a hair transplant conference, because my message and the message of this broadcast and the IHRS is surgery is a last resort, I thought it was a fucking perfect match. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited because there are guys like you who, yeah, you're still concerned. You still think about it. And you still write, you still call into the program, but you shave your head. And I think that's, that means that you won the battle for the most part when it comes to hair loss.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you feeling about that?
It pretty much sums it up, man. Especially I think probably about a year ago, I was worried about it. I was like, oh man. And then my father passed away, and then I was dealing with hair loss, and I said, you know what? I do not care. I said, I'd rather be a Noah 7 if I could have my father back. And I said, you know what? Let me just shave my head and go on with it. And I rarely think about it. Really, just every 2 or 3 days, shave my head, and bigger and better things in life, really. Especially I'll be 27 at the end of the month, so I'm like, shit, man, I'm going to be 30 in 3 years, so it's like I got to get my shit together.
You know what? I'm going to be 54 in a couple of days. 50-fucking-4. You know how real that is? I mean, shit really that is 6 years from fucking 60, my man.
I said, you don't look it, though.
Well, thank you, but you know what? Eventually that's going to crack. Shit's going to happen. I'm going to hit a wall. That's what happens. I see these guys who, and women especially, who look really, you're like, oh my God, they look incredible. And then all of a sudden you see them one day, you're like, what the fuck happened? It's like your skin just starts to melt off. It happens overnight. So I don't know when that's going to happen, dude. I have no idea. And that's why I tell everybody, look, This is for real. The reason we are here is because this is important to people. But at the very least, what we try to offer is some perspective.
Yep.
Don't be vulnerable. Hair loss sucks. If you can't deal with being bald, let's find a solution without you being harmed. But no solution is perfect. You're going to have to deal with telling the people in your interpersonal lives. You're going to have to deal with maybe looking a little odd for a while. If, say, you decide to get a hair transplant, if you decide to wear a hairpiece, even if it's a great hairpiece, somebody's going to figure it out. I mean, at least one person in your life. So you can't hide it. You got to be open with it. So if you're going to deal with hair loss and you're going to deal with it, there's two ways to deal with it. There's total acceptance, like what you've done, shaving your head, and you just totally accept it. And that means you're totally free. And then there's acceptance of the limited options that we have. And that acceptance is, you know what? I may not look perfect, but I'm going to feel more comfortable in my own skin. But it's not perfect. And I think that's a big problem that a lot of guys have, especially the young guys. They are convinced by the ads and by what we see on the message forums that their hair transplants are going to be perfect. They're convinced that if they choose to wear a hairpiece, which most people are afraid to do because they harken back to the old days of really bad noticeable hairpieces, but they're being sold something that is claimed to be undetectable. Now, maybe visually undetectable by a lot of people, but let me tell you something. If someone is close enough, they're going to detect it probably, maybe not, depending on who it is. But if they touch your hair, they're going to know something's up. So people just need to accept those realities. And once they accept those realities, they're going to be a lot less anxious about things and a lot less vulnerable. Would you agree, Joe?
I would, actually. I mean, whatever your situation is, if you can just accept it, then it just makes life so much better. Even before my repair surgeries, dealing with the mess I had on my head, I just accepted it. It would still hurt every time some asshole would kind of point out the problem especially in front of others.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? If you don't accept it, you just keep worrying about it and being depressed. It's like, no, I fought really hard to not do that, and it was working out. I mean, I'm happier with hair, but it was working for me. So if you can do that, if you can do it by shaving, if you can do it by just acceptance of whatever your situation is, hair system, if you can find a good hair system, I mean, dealing with it the best way you can is the only way to peace in your own mind. And that's a problem I see with most of the guys I deal with, or I have dealt with in the past, is they have this storm going on in their head. It's like a bag of cats. They're just consumed by the issue, and they're a lot of measuring every hair as it falls out every day. And
guilty.
I get it.
Guilty.
But, yeah, I know. Yeah. But at the same time, you got to get to a point where you got to accept something about it and deal with it the best way you can.
That's so true, man. I was telling probably a couple of days ago. I was telling before about but for me it wasn't even probably 5 years ago. I'm early 20s, 21, 22. I had hair back then. I thought, hey, I was chubby. I said, you know what? Maybe I'm terrible with women. I think maybe I'll get in good shape, get rock hard ass. Maybe that'll help. Got in shape with hair at the time. Then I was still messing with women. So I said, you know what? I said, but inside I know deep down I was lacking confidence. And the person, man, I am right now, I traded money, hair for the confidence I had now. If I would have had it back then, because that was the only thing lacking back then. And I said, you know what? If I got hair tomorrow, would it change anything in my life? Not really.
Well, and that, you know what? And again, that means you won. Now you are. I'm not saying that everyone could be like you. I mean, you probably look good with a shaved head, or good enough where you don't have any problems with women, and that means a lot. And there are guys who actually are super handsome, and I would say this a lot of this goes for Caucasians and Asians, and super handsome with their full heads of hair, and then for whatever reason, because of the shape of their face or just something doesn't fit, As soon as their hairline starts to recede, or as soon as they really lose their hair significantly, they go from like a fucking 8 to, I mean, realistically, to like a 4. Shit happens to people, and that fucks people up so much. And, you know, they're not getting the same attention they used to get. They're not being complimented on their appearance. They see that, you know, it's more difficult for them to attract the opposite sex, or in some cases the same sex. And there's a real deterioration. What is it, Joe? Deterioration?
Deterioration.
Yeah, of their appearance. But once that erosion of their hairline and their appearance really starts to happen, so does their self-confidence. So it's a double whammy, man. And then there are the guys that have this actual change in their appearance who are somehow able to move through it. And while they don't look as good initially on the outside, eventually they become as attractive to women for other accomplishments in their lives and for their personalities. And that is really true. That does happen. Now, it makes your life a lot more difficult, for sure. A lot of people who are dealing with it are not living the full life that they could have lived. But there are a handful of guys, a small group, and I say that these are really the winners of this unfortunate community that we're a part of, who are able to get through this and just say, fuck it, like you. So, you know, you're a good example. And the other side of the spectrum, we got Joe from Staten Island, who he's too fucked up to even call in now.
Yikes.
So, all right, man, listen, we're gonna take some other calls. And you know what? I keep saying this. We need to hook up a Skype line. I was thinking, you know, maybe we can do that with Joe. And then we can Skype your sound in that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I just look at my Skype.
You can try that.
I can do that.
Yeah, because I have never been able to fully comprehend what the fuck you're talking about, dude, since you've been calling in. But the bits and pieces that I do hear is fucking funny as hell. And,
all right, man.
And you're really good, and I really appreciate you calling. So let's try to hook that up, Joe.
All right. Yeah, we'll do that.
All right, dude. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for the call.
Thanks for calling, Justin.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Hey, before I go, shout out to Serial Lion, Black Hair Loss Matter, baby. Good night.
Good night, man. Phone number 888-659-3727. Let's see if we can get a call here. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, Lewis from Staten Island, New York.
Lewis from Staten Island. How are you, man?
Lewis.
All right, great. How are you guys?
Oh, we're pretty good. Lewis, I'm going to play a little Staten Island tune for you. Lewis
from Staten Island.
Excuse me. My name is.
Would you like to may reiterate it?
My name is.
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is.
Lewis
Joe from Staten Island.
Lewis, what's happening, man?
Not much. I wish I could find your buddy Joe and knock on his door.
Well, we may be able to make that happen.
We'll give you a camera and a microphone, and you can go knock on his door.
I think the rest of his hair will fall out. I don't know how much hair he has, but oh my God, that's funny.
So what's happening, man?
None. I'm just listening. I got a couple of questions. First of all, whoever could shave their head and just go on with their lives, I give them all the credit in the world because I don't think I could do it. But,
no, me neither, man.
Like you said, there's only a few, far and few that can do that, boy. But I've been dealing with this.
They won the fucking lottery ticket.
Yeah, because dealing with this shit for I'm 49 and I've been dealing with this for probably 20 years.
Okay.
So
yeah,
and just going back on the Finasteride and what you guys were talking about, I used to get the Finasteride 5 milligram from Teva.
Yeah.
But it seems like every time I go to renew my prescription, I notice that there's different prescribers on there, I guess, or who makes it.
Different manufacturers.
Now, I mean, is that affecting how it's working, or should I just try to demand, the Teva again and stick with that, or?
Well, how have you noticed a change?
I mean, I've been through multiple hair transplants. I'm like in Joe's category with like at least 9.
Okay,
so
wow.
I do have a lot of hair on my head. So, but I mostly in the crown area was a little thinner, and that's why I was just concerned with the pills. And I'm also on, taking the Rogaine and everything. But if the pills can affect you that much, that worries me, because then I want to make sure I'm on the right track with it and not just wasting my time.
Well, and the thing is, they can. They can, and it's certainly been proven with other medications. And I think this expose from CBS was really telling, and it really speaks to what Joe and I have been speaking to for a long time.
Yeah.
But with that said, if you are still maintaining your hair, and if you haven't seen any type of a shed, then it is more than likely that you're still doing okay on whatever generics that you're using.
Yeah, because I actually called Walgreens today, and they said it's because I know Joe always talks about the ProScar. So in other words, the Finasteride 5 milligrams is ProScar no matter what company makes it, or
no. ProScar is the brand name of Finasteride, and the 5 milligram dose. So Merck and Company manufactured and did all the testing for ProScar, which was approved for benign prostate hyperplasia. And then in 2006, the patent was done, and they were making 5 milligram doses of finasteride from all different generic pharmaceutical companies. So
in other words, when you guys do order this through your pharmacies, what are you looking for on the bottle? Does it have to be that same company constantly?
It's Merck. It's Merck's ProScar, period.
So that's what I have to ask for?
Well, no, that's what I use. And, if you've never used brand name and you've always done okay on your generics, then you may not have to worry about it. You may be getting good generics in general. But, but I think you're a good example of, like you said, every time you go to the pharmacy, they're changing the pills on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you never really know what you're putting into your body. And the pharmacist and the FDA, wink, wink, will tell you that it's all the same shit, when in fact it's been proven that at least with a lot of drugs and some drugs that are you're dealing with, life-saving drugs, apparently they're not as potent. Exactly. They're not as effective.
Yeah, because now when I finish this 3-month bottle that I have, I'm noticing, because I do, they send it to the house now, so I'm noticing my next 3 months are going to be from a different company. So,
well, you can ask them if it's possible for you to use the same company.
Oh, okay, and just stick with one company.
Yeah, if you can. It's very possible that you're are you going to a big box pharmacy, like a Rite Aid or a Walgreens?
Yeah, this is a Walgreens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of, and I do use Rite Aid here in California, but I'm a fan of the mom and pop shops, if they still exist. Yeah. There's actually one close by in Century City Mall, which I'm considering switching over to. But there's a lot more leeway with the mom and pop shops.
I was getting it from Tever for a while, then I noticed that it switched. And
yeah, someone made a deal, and they're paying less money overall for whatever manufacturer they decide to deal with. And it's most likely an Indian manufacturer.
Yeah, because like I said, you take you take your time, you take the pills every day, you're cutting them up, and you just want to know that it's working.
Yeah, you do. You do. And you also want to make sure that you're not going to have any adverse side effects. You also want to make sure that you're not going to lose any ground. But it seems so far, according to your experiences, you haven't had anything bad happen. You haven't lost any ground. So
I've been on it for about 5 years now, I'm thinking. About 5 years.
And you probably always started on generic.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
So I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but if possible, I would ask if you can use the same drug. And you could also shop around local pharmacies. I mean, there's a lot of pharmacies in New York. There's several mom and pop stores still around on Staten Island.
Yeah.
And you might be able to get what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And just another question as regarding to the scalp micropigmentation.
Sure.
I do have a lot of hair on my head, but I would like to just fill it in, like to make it look like I have more density. Now, what are your opinions on, I always see that Mark Weston on that, that one-time procedure. What do you guys know about him, or what do you feel about that it's guaranteed not to turn a color? And I know Joe always said you got to be careful with scars, because what happened to me a few years ago, actually maybe about 5-6 years ago, with my FUT scars, I did go to a clinic in New York and it wound up turning color.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I understand that you guys always say, with scars, it could turn either way. And I don't know.
You went to? Did they give you some sort of guarantee as well?
No, I mean, I went into it stupid like I did with my first hair transplant, so not knowing. And the funny thing was, actually, I had my girlfriend with me, and when we went into the office to speak to, I guess, the owner or whoever was running it, it was darkened. And I said to her, why is it so, like, I wanted to tell him, turn the lights on. Maybe because his wasn't so great, and that's the way he hit it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't long before it turned. I mean, it looked great the first week or two, and then I guess I had to go back for 2 or 3 sessions. But
when I hear these stories, I mean, you're in a dark room.
Yeah, I know, and right there.
So here's the reality, and Joe could speak to this from experience.
Yeah.
But the reality is, anyone who gives you a guarantee in this business is selling you a guaranteed piece of crap.
Yeah.
Period. There are no guarantees in this business. And when you're guaranteeing a fucking tattoo, that's insanity.
That's the worst.
And
that's
I
the worst
have,
kind of misleading effort to get your cash that you can ask for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have several tattoos on my arms that have been just probably about 20 years old. And I don't go in the sun a lot, so the color's still very vibrant on them.
Right.
And, like I don't go in the sun or nothing, but I was researching the SMP a lot, and I always see Mark Weston's, one-time procedure instead of, because it kind of makes sense when he talks about multiple sessions that you keep going into the scalp, you keep, causing damage. And he seems to have this one-time session and guaranteeing that it won't turn. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Now, how long has Mark Weston been in business?
I think he's
in 2009. I think but he's been a tattoo artist, and he got into this in 2009. And there's just like a lot of really good, reviews, and he also shows a whole bunch of scar repairs, Caucasian, black, and he shows pictures from 7 to 8 years later, and they seem to be really good. But I don't know, maybe you guys heard something or spoke to somebody.
Listen, I have no idea. This guy could be the nicest guy in the world and could really believe in what he's doing, and maybe in his hands and with his people, he's getting some really good results. I'm taking a look at his website now, and he says he has a certificate of membership from the American Hair Loss Council. So, and basically saying that
his own needles.
Well, but I'm looking at that, and that alone, unfortunately, for anyone who displays but for everyone who, he may have patented his own needles, but I'm just talking about the American Hair Loss Council membership. The way that's being displayed as though, it is essentially the American Hair Loss Council is a trade organization. If you're in the hair loss world, you can join it. If you want to get into the hair loss world, as long as you pay fees, you can join it. Now, he says he's the first scalp micropigmentation artist to be approved for membership. Maybe he was the first one to ever want membership.
Yeah.
But, that to me, that's a red flag. But with that said, this guy, he's probably good at what he does. And he probably has a lot of happy, just judging from, reading about him just quickly, he probably has a lot of happy patients, a lot of happy clients. and he probably truly believes in what he's doing. So I'm not saying that this guy's a bad guy at all. All I'm saying is, and look, anyone can patent anything they want. You can make a needle. I can patent a fucking needle. You know, as long as it is different enough from some other tattoo needle, and it's patentable, I can apply for a patent and then get a patent. None of that means anything. What means something is results.
Like a one-time session, and you don't have to go back. You know, and that's a big thing too, because I just doing my scars alone, it was kind of annoying going back and forth to have it done. And he's saying that well, you see on there, it's a one-time procedure, and
you know, and I'm looking at his work, and at least, you know, in images, it looks fine. And, you know, I'm sure that he is a good artist, and I'm sure that, you know, but you have to understand this is a business like any other business. And I'm just, on a personal note, I am not a fan of tattooing your head permanently, but I get the logic of you don't want to have to keep going in there. You are causing, you know, are you causing micro scarring or microfibrotic, you know, scarring? But the thing about trichopigmentation is you're going, it's a much more shallow procedure. And you're
is that done multiple times, the tricho? Is that back and forth, or that's not a one-time session, right? That's multiple, the tricho too, also?
It is multiple, yeah. I'm going to let Joe talk about it. Joe, give me your thoughts.
I'm just looking at a video on the guy's website, and I'm seeing a lot of, you know, bold, you know, the first here patented there. It's like, okay, whatever. Yeah. I mean, some of the photos look good. I'm not going to talk about his artistry. Yeah. But what I will say is, if what I saw was a claim where the pigment can last 20 years or longer, it tells me he's simply using tattoo pigment. Could be wrong. I don't know. But here's my general thought on the industry as it stands today. I think that the industry as a whole is a bucket of shit. I can't stand it, and the reason for that
I
is
got
because
proof of it on the back of my head. Turned on me.
But the reason why I say that, I mean, I was involved with it on some level up till a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, and the level of slime that I was dealing with, people that are in this industry, somehow it really has pulled all kinds of weird and questionable people out of the woodwork. There are there's such a ratio of really bad practitioners and just slime balls in this industry compared to the good people that I have a hard time. Like I'm telling people now, just avoid it, because because the likelihood of you finding someone that knows what they're talking about, B, isn't trying to sell you a bill of goods, and C, knows what has an aesthetic sense. Like if you get past the bullshit, if you get past the product itself, like is it a reliable product, or is it just some sort of tattoo ink that's rebranded, which is actually dangerous, by the way. I'll go into that in just a moment. If you can get past all of that, and then you find that person is not just honest and knows what they're talking about, but also has a good aesthetic sense, that is really tough in this field. Like there's only like 5 people that I think are even worth considering, and I've not found a permanent solution yet. Granted, I've not been looking for a few years, but it all changes color, and that it's not so much the pigment's fault. It's human biology. It's physiology. Exactly. Your skin goes through changes, and the way that light hits it changes as well.
Yeah, and he
What's
gets
that?
into, I mean, I've been on his sites for a long time. I mean, if you really just take time and go through it, he really gets into detail about why and he talks about the multiple sessions. And he also has a video on to show why his pigment stays and lasts. He's got this thing he does with a, you'll see it on there.
But you even said it yourself. He's only you said it yourself. He's only been doing this since 2009. That is 10 years. So what you want to do is you want to see patients, his original patients or clients from 10 years ago, in person.
Yeah, exactly.
And see what they look like.
Because he's got them on the website from 6, 7, 8, and.
But that begs the question. It's like if it lasts 20 years or longer, and he's only been doing it for 10 years, how do you know?
And listen, this guy could be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have nothing against this guy. I don't even know who this guy is really, at all. Actually, I will tell you this though. We have a very, we had a section for a very short time for micropigmentation, trichopigmentation on the message form. It became just a clusterfuck of nastiness and spam and just disgusting. I just said, you know what? I'm just shutting that shit down. If we wanted to charge practitioners, even if it was a small fee, like $500 a month to be a part of it, easily get 20, 30 guys on there, just as a little ancillary income. Not a big deal. It would have brought in a lot of traffic and a lot of bullshit. I'm not interested in that. You know what I stick to? I stick to products and services that can actually treat hair loss as far as educating consumers and just telling the truth. I think that trichopigmentation has its place. I am personally not a fan of tattooing your scalp in any way, shape, or form, but that's just a personal preference. So if I were to tell a family member, if a family member were to ask me, should I do this? I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
However, if a family member who could not live in their own skin as a completely bald person, and they wanted to try to create the illusion of this shaved head appearance, I would say at least do something that will fade. So that you're
this way, if you don't like it,
right. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it.
Would you recommend anybody in New York that would do the trichopigmentation? I know some of these hair transplant places do it, but is there somebody specific?
There is a guy that I have no relationship with, and I actually don't even allow him to post in the forum because it's kind of a rule that no tricho guys or anybody can be posting stuff on the forum. But Joe knows somebody personally, and I had a buddy of mine who ended up becoming a model for this guy, and he's very, very happy with the results. There are no financial ties, so I'm not even going to say his name. Joe can.
Yeah. Well, it's the company Ahead Inc. and Eric. Eric is the guy there.
Ahead Inc.
And frankly, I think that he's one of the best in the world.
Okay,
Ahead Inc.
Ahead Inc. Ahead Inc. And is Eric?
Yeah.
Okay, and he's in New York.
Yeah, he's actually he's in Jersey, across the river.
Oh, he's in New Jersey. Oh, great. All right. No, that's great. And the tricho would be the way to go. Like you said, it would fade out over time, and if you weren't happy with it, then eventually it was going to fade.
It just seems like that's the logical move. That's just my opinion. And listen, everyone has their own opinions about this stuff.
Yes.
And I want to make it clear that I have seen some okay permanent SMP.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I was at a bar at Century City Mall. I was at this Mexican place, great place. The place is fucking dark. Saw this guy come in with his fucking smoke show of an Asian chick. And I can tell you that I'm sure he makes a lot of money because what was on his head was frightening. If you can see a tattooed head in the dark, it's bad.
Oh my God.
It's bad. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh my God. Yeah,
So,
that could be I mean, like, thank God my my hair could be long enough to cover. I mean, it's not big because it faded also, but it definitely turned. And I also had some grafts put into a certain section, and that took pretty well. So most of it got covered anyway. But you know, you go into these things blind. You think, you know, like I did, you know, see it on the computer. Let me go get it done, and then that's it. And then you're stuck with it. You know, and then I love when they tell you if there's anything wrong, come back. But you messed me up the first time. Why would I come back?
Yeah, well, that's that's the name of the. Listen, this industry, the only changes in this industry since I started to do my own research are just like different techniques, and you know, now head tattooing and FUE, but it's all the same shit. It's all the same players, just a new generation. And you know, there's a lot of really bad people in it. And look, I get shit, Joe gets shit. We're here telling the truth. And when you talk about specific people's businesses, I try not to. I just try to give a complete overview of my concerns, my feelings, and what I would do and how I would advise a family member. And then, you know, then the tattoo guys would be like, oh, well, he's just trying to sell surgery. I don't want to sell fucking surgery. Don't have surgery, people. Surgery is a last fucking resort. I just want to guide everybody in a safe direction. If they're going to do something, these are your real options. Everything else is fucking bullshit. And even with the real options, you're taking a chance. All right,
now,
listen, man.
With the, real quick, if I could just say it. Now, with the trichopigmentation, I know Joe talks about the scars and everything. Now, what about the recipient area? Would that be a concern, or that would just be, you know, I mean, is that something to worry about, or?
I don't understand the question. What do you mean compared to scar tissue?
Yeah, as far as scar tissue and it turning automatically, you know, like it did on my FUT scars. Now, what about the recipient area? Is that something to be concerned about, or is that something?
I think that anywhere you go, anyone you talk to, any procedure that you consider, it is always going to be a possibility. I don't care what anyone says, simply because your physiology might actually allow for that to happen. You know, the one constant in this field, like if you go to a reputable place, like if you go to a trichopigmentation clinic, and when I say trichopigmentation, I mean trained by Beauty Medical of Milan, Italy, where it's all the same. The constant is that you're getting the same pigment. Okay. The constant is that you're getting people that have had the same training. It ends there. You yourself are not a constant. You're a variable that can't be predicted. So your skin tissue is going through constant change, constant flux. And the way that your physiology handles the pigment is the way that your physiology handles the pigment. So, you know, I'm not going to give you any assurances beyond that. That's the only thing that you can count on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I love what you guys do, and I love listening to you. And have a great night.
All right, man. I appreciate it, dude. Take care.
Thanks for calling, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, you can't talk to people about anything. That's why I always tell these doctors who complain to me, like, why are you telling people not to have surgery? I can't talk anybody out of not. I mean, very few people, a very small percentage of guys will be talked out of surgery. So,
and those are the ones that call us and say thanks.
Right. But in my mind, it's like, you know what? I gave it a shot, and at least they are completely prepared for any possibility.
That's the thing. It's like if you do lay out all the possible disasters that can happen, and they still want to have that's the whole point of hair transplant class video number 1. If they still want to have a hair transplant after everything I tell them and show them that can go wrong, then nothing would have talked them out of it to begin with, but at least they know. At least they've been informed.
All I can say is that,
and that's what we want.
Because of the vulnerability of patients and because of everyone being so desperate, and this has nothing to do with this person's particular work, but if a person who proclaims himself to be the Son of God on an international platform is able to come back from that and then thrive, it shows you just how fucking desperate people are when it comes to their hair. Doesn't mean that this guy's doing bad work. Or I guess what I'm trying to say is that people could do whatever the fuck they want in this industry. They could be fucking crazy. They could be drug addicts, whatever it is. They could still figure out a way to make a living because there's so many people who are just willing to do whatever it takes to try to fix themselves, not do their due diligence, not do their research. Look, I guess that's why we're in business.
Yeah.
What am I going to tell you? 888-659-3727. Hey, who's this? You're on the air.
Hey, what's going on, Joe and Spencer? It's Dave from Brooklyn.
Dave from Brooklyn. What's
Hello,
happening, man?
Dave? How's it going?
Hey, what's up, gentlemen? Hey, I couldn't believe it. I'm listening to this conversation, and I thought, God, as fate would have it, here I am, the next caller. Because you guys, I don't know if you remember, but I was going to go to Eric's studio.
I do remember.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually not why I'm calling, but, let me just quickly add this. I did not get it done, not because I don't want to get it done, but because I simply didn't have the time. And this, that was last October, so I haven't spoken to Eric from Ahead Inc. since last October. I hope he's not mad at me because I kept delaying it, and I just don't have the time at this moment. But, and I really appreciate what you guys are saying. I understand there's so many physiological variables at play that can affect the ultimate outcome. All I can say is that, I visited the studio. It's well lit.
And check mark number one.
Yeah.
And I must say, again, as fate would have it, the client upon whom he was working that day, this guy, the guy was like 6'3", literally looked like a model, except he had a receding hairline. And when Joe was finished with him, it was just really, I'm sorry, Eric. When Eric was finished with him, yeah. When Eric was there, I looked at this guy, and I couldn't believe it. It looked so natural, and I was really giving him a good look. And Eric was nice enough to let me watch it. I literally sat on a chair while Eric was doing this guy's, scalp. The guy's like sitting there listening to his iPod or whatever, and meaning the client is listening to the iPod, and Eric is just doing his work. And then when the guy left,
iPod, was it like 2004?
I have no idea. I don't listen to music. I don't even know what I'm talking about iPods.
Listen
I don't know what
Zoom.
iPods are. I've never even owned a CD player. That's how out of it I am. So
You have an
it's out of
iPhone?
the dark.
You have a smartphone?
I have a smartphone.
Okay. Well, your smartphone will allow you
There's your iPod.
to have all of your music.
I got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, so when the guy left, Eric and I were talking, and I said, wow, this guy looks amazing. And Eric said, I know he won't let me use his face, because I'd love to put him on the website. He looks so good. And, he's got the look and now this new, frame. And, and here's the funny thing, I, at times during, since last October when I decided to have it done until now, I kind of said, what, do I really need this? I'll tell you when it hits you, I shave my head really close to remove as much demarcation between, the hair loss, the hair fringe, the horseshoe fringe,
Right.
and the bald top, right? So obviously the closer I shave it, the less demarcation there'll be. And no matter how close you shave it, you can see inside the scalp. You're literally looking into, you're looking underneath the skin in a way, right?
Right.
So, and from the side, you know what? I would love that coverage and that frame in the front. It really makes a difference to walk around and look like, hey, I just shaved my head. And so all I can say is, from what it looked like, I saw it with my own two eyes. It looked amazing. And the fact that it is temporary is actually great, right? Because you don't want permanent. And I was concerned about what you said last week, Joe, about, I'm sorry, Spencer, about the the repetitive needling, right? Now, I could be wrong about this, but, obviously the top layer of skin is the epidermis, right?
Right.
And then beneath that, you have the dermal tissue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is really interesting because the dermis, you have the upper dermis, which is closer to the scalp, it's closer to the surface, and the lower dermis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I think they call that the subdermis, right? The part that's closer to the epidermis, right?
Right.
So, like in microneedling, supposedly, the reason why it works and the reason why it's not supposed to cause scarring if you don't go too deep into the dermis is because the upper dermis is actually that part does not cause scarring. But if you go too deep into the dermis, into the lower dermis, now that would be a scar-causing a part of the dermis. And some pimples, for example, I believe some pimples or some acne is formed from deep within the dermis, but some acne, I think, is called some, like, let's say, tiny little pimples are from the upper dermis.
So think about the size of the needles. If you're using a 0.2 to 0.5 microneedle in a roller, you are probably not getting past the epidermis.
Right.
Once you go past 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeter, and everyone's biology is different. Everyone's body is slightly different. You are getting down to that lower layer. So
I'm not. Well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I've actually done, I looked up, like, how deep is the dermis, right? On the scalp. Obviously, it depends on where on the body. Well, actually, maybe it doesn't. It probably is anywhere on the body. How deep is the dermal tissue? And I think it is about 2 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. So that 1.5 may be just where, because from what I've heard of microneedling, they say don't go past 1.5. I think if you're going to do it around the eyes, you want to go like maybe 0.5, because I guess the skin is thinner.
Now, let me ask you, when you look it up, when you look up how deep is the dermis, what comes up? Usually, it's a lot of stuff from microneedling and derma rolling?
No. I went to some Medscape stuff and some, I went to some relatively, independent stuff. I'm pretty sure it's 1.5. That may be where the dermal tissue begins.
And that could be, again, and you're right, and that could be the threshold. But everybody's going to be slightly different. And also, there are those who, especially if you're being a little aggressive, and even on your scalp, you could push down on your scalp, and while it does feel like you're basically just pushing down on scalp, there's a slight give. Mm-hmm. And if someone is really derma rolling, really pushing that derma roller down, they're using 1.5, I can guarantee you they're causing themselves some damage.
Well, let me ask you this: wouldn't there be a scab in that case if they're going into the dermal tissue? So where would be the scar? The result would have to be a scab. So, for example, if a cat scratches your arm and it heals really quickly, that means it didn't go past the epidermal because it healed fast. The only way it went into the dermal is if it took a longer time to heal, which means it had to cause a scar, right?
Well, the thing is, with some people, they do actually, because they're making themselves bleed, you will actually see some slight scabbing. With other people who may be causing, and again, I'm not a physician, and this is at this point it's still theoretical, but with other people who are going deep enough, because it is a microneedle, the scarring or scabbing or fibrotic tissue that's being caused is essentially on the microscopic level until it's not, until there's a confluence of fibrotic tissue. You don't have to scab, to my knowledge, to have a scar. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor.
Okay, well, see, the fear with microneedling, is that if you get into this is something that you may have to use a 3 millimeter needle to do this, or maybe even deeper, to get into the fat. And you may actually start destroying that good fat that you need on your face, the whole, So, but I think you'd have to use and I'm not even sure if a needle can damage fat, by pushing into it. I'm not really sure that could happen because I know microneedling does not work for fat. For women who have on their legs.
Cellulite.
What do you call it?
Cellulite.
Yeah, cellulite. It doesn't work for that unless you use a heater. There's but that's what I'm sorry. Were you gonna say something, Joe?
Joe? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Joe was going to say something. Yes. So I mean, that's just. I mean, I'm not sure whether.
Well, and look, you know what? You could actually, I mean, listen. What you're saying, it definitely it makes sense. All I know is that if you keep going over the same area over and over and over again with a long microneedle, I have seen it myself. I have seen guys who have had this. It's almost like parchment. Their scalp turns into like a parchment type of a situation, and a lot of these guys end up losing hair. Now, I don't know the exact mechanism that's happening underneath the scalp. The thought is that there is some fibrotic tissue, some microscarring that's happening. However, no one's doing any studies, and I'm not a physician. All I can say is, if I were going to do it and I choose not to, I would certainly not use that big of a needle.
Right. I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, I think that's where the damage has been done by the longer needles. But, I would love to see whether those people scabbed before they had that, that damage that was visible. I'd just be very curious about that. Because, you could take a shot, for example, like let's say you take a hypodermic needle, and that has to go through the dermal tissue.
Right.
I've had filler done. I've had Botox done. Those suckers go deep, and I don't believe that there's any scar. As far as bleeding, I bleed a little bit, but it can't be causing some serious damage because I don't see any scabbing.
You definitely
don't see.
Well, let me ask you a question. When someone has an implant placed, whatever the implant is, what forms around the implant? Scar tissue. Is there any visible scabbing when they form that scar tissue? The answer is no.
Well, okay.
All right. It's under the skin, and so even if it is just when you are putting in dermal fillers, you're creating pockets. You're broadening pockets. You're creating pockets. You're stretching pockets of skin in many cases. The whole mantra of the plastic surgery world now is because everyone wants something that's non-invasive and it sells easy is volume, volume, volume. What they don't tell you is that you don't necessarily lose volume as you get older. Your volume drops as you get older. So the lower third of your face becomes heavier, and the upper portion of your face becomes more skeletal-like, and the entire shape changes. So essentially what they're doing is they're filling in like a balloon with fillers. Over time, if you have that done enough, you will create scar tissue. Your body will automatically react to the filler that's in your body to create some sort of scar tissue. With every injection, you are creating some fibrotic tissue. And in time, you'll see, especially for women, they will develop what's known as filler fatigue or filler face or pillow face. Now there's a big thing about, and I got a press release about it from the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery, how people are now trying to dissolve their filler because they're also, so many people are suffering from filler fatigue, and they're blaming patients for being overzealous, for going in for too many sessions, as opposed to blaming the physicians who are offering this without really knowing what it was doing for the long term. I had one plastic surgeon on my program. I was doing a pilot show of Plastic Surgery Live, and he essentially said, and then he asked me, he said, well, I don't know if I want to keep that up there, but he then decided that it's fine. He said he would never inject filler or have filler injected. He would never inject filler to anyone in his family or have filler injected in himself. And he goes, but the thing is, it helps his business because women are aging themselves more rapidly.
Wow. Amazing. I never knew this.
You got to realize you're also dealing with gravitational pull. So you're adding more volume, more weight. Where do you get the filler done?
I actually get it done by my dentist.
Okay. I don't want to hear, Jesus. Okay. But where do you get it done, like on your body?
Oh, I do it on my forehead,
Okay.
on top of my eyebrows. No, I'm sorry. That's where the Botox is done.
Right.
The filler is done on the upper cheek, like the mid upper cheek.
Right.
It's supposed to build the cheek.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's where, and sometimes around the mouth.
All right. How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it for like about 3-4 years.
And how do you like it?
Amazing. I love it. I couldn't live without it. It makes me look 5-10 years younger. It's amazing.
So,
I'm 45 years old.
Yeah.
I swear to God, if you met me, you'd probably think I'm about 32 years old.
Well, I would love to see. You should send us some pictures. But I can tell you this: that I'm glad that you're doing well with it. I think men tolerate it better because we, in general, have much thicker skin. No pun intended.
True.
So the gravitational pull, and the increased volume and creating these pockets in your face don't affect us as much. But I've seen some guys with some significant filler fatigue here in Beverly Hills. It doesn't look good, dude. I'm telling you. Less is more. Tell your dentist less is more.
Right. Well, guess what? His practice has turned from a dental practice. He says 70% of the work he does now is fillers and Botox.
And now, is he an oral maxillofacial surgeon or is he just a DDS?
No, he's a general dentist. Yeah, he's a DDS.
Unfucking believable.
You know what? Wait, hold on. I could be wrong about that. You would think I would know this, but well, they have a lot of experience with needles. Their argument is no one knows needles more than dentists. And
you know what? And you know what? The truth is, that's true. That is true. What did you say, Joe? You just froze.
No, I was saying maybe.
Well, you froze. Maybe you can connect and reconnect. See what happens.
Hold on.
All right. Look, man. All I can say is this: you're a great caller. You're a smart guy. I do believe that you probably do look a lot younger than 45 years old. But really, trust me on this. Be careful with the Botox and fillers. Also, know that these neuromodulators, or these toxins that are freezing your face, essentially, the muscles are much smaller. You kind of have to liken it to, imagine if you were stuck in a wheelchair for 10 years. What would happen to your legs? Your legs would atrophy.
Right.
Same thing happens to the muscles around your face.
Right.
So in time, it becomes, it droops more. You need more Botox in shorter periods of time. Then you get that shiny face and shiny forehead that a lot of these women suffer from. And in time, fillers can do the same thing. Now, if they're very conservative with the fillers and you're not creating much larger pockets than needed, then you can probably get away with it for a decade or so, or even more. But just don't become overzealous, dude, because you're going to end up looking like, and you're not going to realize it because it becomes this distorted view of yourself, this new normal.
True.
True.
Well, before I run, Joe, Spencer, let me just quickly tell you, you've heard of facercise, right, where people do facial exercises?
Yeah.
They've done some studies. There's actually some science behind it that it builds the muscle from within in a natural way. So that's another option. But can I give you one hypothetical before I run? This has to do with finasteride, right? Because I always wonder, I wonder what would have happened if I had used it, right? So let me give you a hypothetical, okay? Let's say you and I are both 20 years old, right? We both have a full head of hair, right? But let's say you're destined to become a Norwood 3 by the time you're 50. I'm destined to become a Norwood 7 by the time I'm 50. But we're both 20. We both have a full head of hair. We both start regular brand name finasteride. Do we both have the same exact chances of having this hold on to our hair, or do I have more genes working against me?
No, your genes really dictate how beneficial the drug is going to be in the long term.
Gotcha. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So if I had used it when I was 18, since I'm a Norwood 7 now, the odds that even if I had started at 18, the odds that I'd have a full head of hair right now are not good, right?
Not good, but you probably, there's a good chance you would have been like a Norwood 3 or Norwood 4. You probably wouldn't have progressed to a full 7 if it worked for you.
Okay, and by Great, thank you. And Joe, by the way, I love that article, man. What an eye opener! Oh my God! I mean, I saw the video, the link you put up there, the drug, the generic drug thing, the India companies. Oh my God! What a piece of! You just changed my trajectory again because I'm not getting generic drugs. Love your show, gentlemen. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Good luck.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet. How's your speed, dude?
My speed's fine. I measured it on wireless. I'm 250. It was 250 up and about 230 down with a 2 millisecond ping.
Let me see what's going on here. Hold on, guys. We'll take your calls in a second. 888-659-3727. This is really disturbing.
And in case you weren't aware, I put a link to the story in the chat room so people could check it out. Let me look at this.
I figured that
Yeah,
since that's what happened.
It says here, sorry, the host has disconnected or we were unable to connect to the call. Check to make sure UDP is not blocked on your firewall. Click OK to attempt to reconnect.
Yeah, I think I'm having problems on my end. Now the stream seems to be going through fine.
Hold on.
But I only have 49. That's 49. Jesus, something's going on with my internet.
And it's still frozen. How's the audio? Do you hear me?
Yeah, the audio is great, but I'm definitely having some problems here.
I could actually hear myself as a delay.
Well, now I see you. All right, let's take a phone call.
Okay.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Dominic. I'm from Scotland.
Dominic.
Hi, Spence. Hi, Joe.
How are you, man?
Yeah.
Dominic.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Late caller. It's a late night there.
Yeah. It's kind of just after 2:30 in the morning, so yeah, but I'm a bit nervous.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure you can tell that, but I'm not usually nervous, but for some reason I am.
Well, it's okay. I'm nervous too, and I do this. I do this all the
perfectly
time.
acceptable.
I'm a wreck.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been listening to your show for maybe 2 or 3 years now. I think I first got connected when I was listening to Joe's kind of hair loss topics, and then this led me on to the Bold Truth, and
That's
the great
awesome.
show you have. So yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I'm a newbie, so to the phone line, so I'll kind of give you a breakdown of my history, and then I'll kind of follow in the question that I want to ask. So just to kind of give you a guideline of where I am. So I'm 27. Within a few weeks, I'll be 28. I started hair loss when I was 19. At first, it was just I noticed the hair falling out, and then by the time I was in my 20s, I noticed my hairline had already receded a bit. So I decided, being so young at age, to do something about it. Like, there's no way I'm going to be in my 20s with, bald hair. So I've tried loads of things for the year, but for about 4 or 5 years, for about 4 years, I did laser treatment, which, I kind of at the time thought, yes, it works for me, but it was believing in something that doesn't really work. It does something, but it doesn't, in my opinion, do much. And then
Was this a situation where you were going to a clinic on a regular basis and they were giving you the treatments, or was this through a cap or a helmet or a brush that you purchased online?
No, I went to a clinic in Glasgow, and it would be, in the beginning, it would be for about maybe 12 weeks, once a week. And then after that, it would be once a month. But I was kind of keen to kind of see more results, so I would make it every 2 weeks rather than every month. Expensive stuff, just by itself. And I'd also be using, well, I still
Right.
use it today. I kind of went on and off of it, but I used minoxidil, which I know some people think it's kind of good and bad, but I think it does something. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I think it does something. And
have you tried
then I decided-
finasteride yet?
Yep, I'm going to come into that. So
Okay.
I decided after about 4, maybe a bit longer than that, years of going for laser treatment, to give it up because my hair was getting worse. You know, I call it the tropical island effect, where you can see the kind of forefront of your hair kind of enclosing because
Sure.
you've got, you know what I'm talking about. So at that stage, I thought, no, just give it up. And I decided, because I'd heard all these about how finasteride, you know, kills you, you know, your libido kind of, you know, you have no sex drive, you know, all these kind of, well, maybe not crazy, but, you know, maybe overhyped stories, and that really put me off of it. And I decided at that point, you know what, I'd rather have hair than have no hair. So I decided to take the drug.
Wow.
And
how you doing on
it? Yeah, it kind of, I've been taking it for, this will be funny enough, about 4 years now, coming up to about 4 years. And for the first year, it worked well enough. My hair loss was pretty good. There wasn't really much coming out at all. But I've noticed over the years, I think after maybe the second year, that's when I started to know things change. I would be in the shower. I have a bath sometimes as well. I know that's not kind of, anyway. And I noticed that I would start seeing hair coming out. And as the kind of time went on using finasteride, I just noticed more and more hair was falling out. Until recently, where I decided I've noticed my hair, you know, when you go for a haircut, which I don't really like going for because you can see the barber going in and kind of looking at your hairline to see where it is.
Oh, sure.
And it's really kind of,
I didn't when I was your age, I didn't get a haircut. I didn't get a professional haircut for like, it's embarrassing, probably for about 7 years of my life or something like that, until I finally had to do it because I hated going to the barber. So I learned how to cut my own hair. It didn't work out so well when I look at the old pictures. It was really fucked up. So I get it.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not one of these people who is afraid to tell other people that, you know, my hair's kind of a little bit, you know, thin and, you know, I've got hair loss. I'm not too worried about that. It's just that when everyone starts looking at you and you think, oh my God, you know, some people look at you like you're kind of like got some really bad illness or you're kind of dying or something like that. And, you know, just the way that they look at you, it's kind of not the nicest thing, if you know what I mean.
Well, listen, I mean, it's funny. People are just really fucked up, and they have no decorum. They don't understand how hair loss affects our lives. So, listen, you're going through it all, and you know the one thing that you did, you know, you got yourself on finasteride. I'm assuming you weren't having any adverse side effects, but you know there is something. Go ahead.
For the first maybe week or two, I had a little, but it faded away quite quickly, actually.
Yeah, well, in most cases, it's transient if it does happen. But, you know, with that said, a lot of people do suffer with a telogen effluvium or a shed once they are on the drug for a while. And it could take 6 months. It could take a year. The key is once you start it, you really, and most doctors would tell you this, I am not a physician, it's about sticking it out and kind of getting through that shedding period. So you said
definitely.
Yeah, so is that what you went through? You stuck it out?
Yeah, I went through the shedding phase for about, on and off for about 2 years. It kind of went for about a year plus. and then it stopped, and then it all calmed down, and it started again. But I knew the drug was working, so I was like, because you get that, and I don't think I've actually heard anyone else say this in your show, or it being mentioned, but when you're not taking like finasteride, I would notice beforehand that, particularly, I don't know why it is at night time, but you would notice. Oh,
yeah,
I got caught there. You would notice that you could feel your kind of blood flow around your hair, and it's like you kind of know that your blood's starting to get drained away, and that's when you know that things are getting worse. But when I started taking finasteride, that all stopped. So that's when I noticed that it was doing something.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that because I've never experienced that, and that doesn't sound like it's even a scientific type of a thing. I mean, who knows why you were feeling that? But the reality is that there's a good chance that most people, especially young guys who catch it early, who start using finasteride pretty early on in the hair loss process, will have some success, meaning that they'll see a cessation of hair loss. They may regrow some hair. They will stave off the hair loss process, the long-term process of going from Norwood 2 to Norwood 3 to Norwood 4, possibly for decades, depending on, your genetics. So, I do think it's unfortunate that a lot of young guys don't have the opportunity, or they're not allowed the opportunity to give the shot a try and have their doctors prescribe it, because they go online and they read all this. Some of it's misinformation, some of it is fear-mongering, and some of it is from people who really have experienced these adverse effects. But a lot of it is blown out of the proportion in a way it's almost like it's mass hysteria. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Right. People who take aspirin will drop dead of anaphylactic shock. People who take other drugs will have other issues. That definitely have adverse side effects, antidepressants, stuff like that. But, for most guys who really want to stop their hair loss, this is what we have. This is the one drug that we know has worked for the long term and has been on the market in one form or another for more than 2 decades. So in my mind, if you're going to put anything in your body, this is probably your safest bet. It has the most, time on tissue, so to speak, or time in body. Time used, in the market. So, so where are you at right now?
So at the moment, I'm within the last 3 weeks, I've been in between taking finasteride, and I've started to take dutasteride. Is that right? Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was hoping that it would start working, but I would say that because I've noticed within the last 5 months, within this year, that my hair loss, my hair that's coming out of my head's just, really starting to ramp up. So I decided to go on to something a bit stronger, because I was taking finasteride 1.25 milligrams, and it wasn't kind of doing much. So,
all right. So how are you doing now?
I would say there's no change.
Okay.
So my hair loss is still kind of quite aggressive. It's speeded up.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, this is the type of stuff that happens when you take these medications, and you kind of you go through ebb and flows. Do you have any specific questions for us?
Yeah, I was thinking, is it still worthwhile taking finasteride in the long term, even when my hair is still thinning? Would it make much of a difference, or is it maybe worth starting to come off of it?
It's an interesting question. It's something that, it's hard to advise you on. Joe, you can give your opinion, then I'll speak.
Well, I think that, I've dealt with this question many times where I've had people say, well, I don't think it's really doing a whole lot for me. And then they've stopped, and then their shedding accelerated. So I think that there's merit to the possibility that while it's not doing what you were hoping it would do, it might be doing something, which is better than nothing. And yeah, I'm the kind of guy, like, when it comes to things like this, I don't like to really, I mean, I can't say I don't like to take chances, but I like to establish a record or a pattern, and really look at things for the long term. And even if things aren't working out the way that I expect, like, if I'm taking medication and I'm not getting a full head of hair back, it still might be doing something. And this is the case with a lot of people that take finasteride or take Rogaine or take dutasteride or taking having PRP sessions or whatever. It can still be doing something to at least slow down the process, as opposed to letting it just take its course naturally at full speed. And so you have to ask yourself, am I getting some satisfaction out of slowing down the inevitable, or should I just let nature take its course as it would do so normally, and then embrace the final product? That's something I can't answer for you, but yeah, I mean, I think that it can still be doing something. The question is how much.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because I was thinking, the same things myself. If I start to not take it anymore, could I be absolutely going, crazy, and, just seeing my hair just coming out, like, what's kind of not great now, but, even worse, which is kind of my kind of alternate fear. Because I was thinking, maybe going, I know this is wild, but because I've got, my Norwood is on, I think it's like a 3 or 4, and I'm thinking my crown's thinning quite a bit. You can definitely see it, but it's not too bad. My hair is quite long. It's really long, actually. It's down to my ears, so I can hide it, apart from when I'm outside in the wind, which is terrible, especially in Scotland. But I was thinking of two things. I think when I get really worse, I might just be quite bold and go for like a mohawk, last stand, as they say. But I was also thinking.
Yeah, well, look, man, we're going to have to take another phone call, and I really appreciate the fact that you're calling us all the way from Ireland, which is amazing. Scotland. Sorry. This is what I think. You're a young guy.
Yeah.
You're obviously in a vulnerable mode and in a vulnerable position. And you don't want to put yourself in. I've done a lot of guys who have not, like Joe said, have not been necessarily happy, and they've gone through the ebbs and flows and the sheds, and then they've stopped shedding and they've regrown some hair. They maintained, and sometimes it takes 5 years, even more, for your body to get to the point where it's fully adjusted to the medication, and you are not going through these synchronized sheds. That's a possibility. And I've known guys who have been dealing with what you've dealt with, and they said, fuck it, I'm going to get off this shit. It's not helping me. And then they do go through what your biggest fear is, that massive shed. And, that's a decision you're going to have to make. If you are willing, like you said, to take the last stand and try the mohawk, that's awesome. You got to make sure, you got to try to hold on to the mohawk then. The real last stand is shaving your head, dude.
Yeah, that's where I was leading.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, I look super young and I'm quite thin, so that's the problem. It's quite a hard bullet to kind of bite. Because I was thinking about PRP, but I'm not, I know it sounds kind of a bit risky because...
How much hair do you have on your head right now? Like, if I were to look at you, would you look like a kid with a full head of hair? Or no?
I would say, yeah.
Okay.
I could hide it, yeah.
All right. Well, then then I have to say that if you want this fight, then it's still worth the fight if you're in that position. But I also believe that if you can, I know you're thin, you might want to, while you're continuing to kind of figure out a way to fight your hair loss, get your ass in the gym. Take this year to really concentrate on building a strong body, getting yourself in the best shape of your life.
I was thinking that, yeah.
And you know what? It's harder than just buying some shit or going under a laser or trying to, but I can tell you in the end, you're going to be better off for it. And it may give you, emotionally, it may give you the option to shave your head and say, fuck it, grow some facial hair and move on and just be some like jacked, cool dude.
Yeah, because they say that, what is it, people that have either lost their hair or losing their hair compensate the hair loss by growing a beard. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but...
Sure.
Most people that...
I grew a beard. I grew a facial hair. I always kind of wanted it, but I really started to grow it out when I started to notice my hair loss. And I just wanted to kind of keep the eyes towards the center of my face as opposed to just having a hairline to look up at. And I just liked it, and I kept it. But yeah, that's most guys with hair loss will grow some facial hair. It's a pretty common thing.
Yeah, there's kind of a common link between the two. I've noticed that. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, we're gonna. I don't want to cut you off, but we're gonna take another call before we call it a night. So feel free to call back again. I know it's late over there, but I really appreciate your patronage. I hope we're able to help you in some way today. And we're on Friday, which would be easier for you to call on a Friday, I think, because it'll be more like 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we're on Fridays at 2 p.m. on the west coast of the United States.
Yeah, I'm a late person anyway. I'm a nighter, so...
Okay, well, cool.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
Good for you.
All right, man. Well, listen, good luck. I know it's rough, but consider really starting to do some other things. Really get yourself, if you're concerned about your appearance and you say like you're a thin guy and you could really change your life by getting yourself in the gym. A year at the age of 27, if you eat right, that could be life-changing, man.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I look good. I look good with my hair, but without it, maybe not so much. But anyway, it was nice speaking to you, Joe and Spencer, and thanks for the advice.
All right, man. It was great speaking to you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
All right, we'll take the last call for the night. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Hey, Spencer and Joe.
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. This is Gary. I'm calling from Pennsylvania.
Gary from Pennsylvania.
Hello,
what's happening, man?
Not much. So I'll make this quick because I know you guys been on the air for a while here.
All right.
So I've been on 1 milligram on Propecia for about 4 years. And, yeah, I'm a brand whore just like you guys.
Good for you.
Good man.
I'm a Norwood 3A as far as I know. It's been kind of holding on that scale. Over the last 2 months, I've been seeing like a significant amount of shedding. And these were like good hairs falling out. So I see Dr. Bernstein in New York. I know you guys know him.
Mm-hmm.
And I travel 2 hours to see him because I just, he knows his shit. So I'd rather go to see someone that actually knows what the hell they're doing. We don't have a lot of people, at least in my area, that know a lot about hair, or at least that's the way that I feel. Anyhow, he performed a biopsy which showed androgenetic alopecia with a superimposed component of telogen effluvium.
Okay.
So he was pretty happy to see that. What he said is, he expected to see that, and he wants to see me in 6 months as a follow-up. What he's thinking is, I was on a blood thinner, Xarelto, for a period of about 5 weeks. Stopped in about early April, and then towards the tail end of that, I noticed some major thinning had happened. and it's been like nonstop. So over the last couple of days, it seemed to have subsided a bit. So what Bernstein is thinking is that I have a late reaction to the meds that caused my hair to go into the telogen effluvium. He actually posed this as good news as to what he saw from the biopsy. But, you know, I'm still concerned that I saw androgenetic alopecia, and I asked him about that, and he's like, don't even worry about that. So I guess my question would be would that still be present in your scalp even though that you're taking Propecia?
Yeah, androgenetic alopecia, sure.
Okay.
Well, what's going to be less present in your scalp is the DHT levels, DHT itself. But yeah, I mean, the reason they take the biopsy is to see what type of hair loss you're actually dealing with. So they're able to decipher whether it's genetic, whether it's scarring, and apparently, which I wasn't aware of, and I don't know what test they're using, but I wasn't aware that they were able to actually take a biopsy and know for sure that it was telogen effluvium, because that seems like it's a pretty general term for people who are dealing with shedding.
That's what I thought. And my question is what prompted the route to go for a biopsy? What was the concern that Dr. Bernstein had when he looked at your case that prompted the idea to have a biopsy in the first place?
So I see him once a year, right? So I called him and said, look, I have a significant amount of shedding. I'm not sure what's happening. He said, come on in for a visit. So he did a pull test, which I wasn't too happy about. And he pulled some of my hair out, and he goes, yeah, you are losing a significant amount of hair. So what I recommend is we do a biopsy and just see what is causing this hair loss. Because I told him about the medication I was on. He just wanted to conclude, is this something that is probably prompted by the medication that I was on, or do we have to do some other look at some alternative types of treatments, with I guess the Propecia. But again, I was on Propecia for 4 years, and I didn't see this type of shedding. I saw this type of shedding in the beginning, but I haven't seen that for the 4 years that I was on it. So I guess he felt like this was the route to go, just to rule out it wasn't something, or that I guess the medication wasn't working. I didn't really ask.
Well, I mean, listen, he's a dermatologist, so a lot of guys who are in his position, he's also a hair loss specialist. They're going to go that route. They're going to go the traditional. Let's take a piece of your fucking skin, take a look at it, send it to the lab, and see what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
Which
frankly
kind of surprises me, but I mean, it seems dramatic. Like unless, and the reason I was asking, and I'm not a doctor, but I do know enough about this to where if there's some sort of visual clue that there's something other than standard hair loss, genetic hair loss, then I can understand. But that's why I was asking if there's something unusual, because I've not heard of this. Just because you're losing your hair, that they're going to send you out to have a minor surgical procedure to determine why you're going through this. Kind of surprised by that, but I mean, it is what it is. And
I actually felt good that he did it, because I think it's more conclusive to me, right? Because I'm thinking, did Propecia run its course on me? Is Propecia not working? And I think that's what I was coming at him about. So, I mean, when he was I think his concern was when he did the pull test, he's like, wow, you're losing a significant amount of hair. Let's see what's causing this loss.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I wasn't opposed to it. I thought, to me, it'd be more conclusive, because it's not theoretical. It's more scientific, right? So they're going to look at, biopsy of my skin. They're going to get more specific about potentially what is going on, within my hair follicles themselves. And the other thing I saw on the report's actually a pretty descriptive report. It says the features are those of non-scarring alopecia. So I guess that's good news, right? To see non-scarring.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's what you want to see. But yeah, I mean, so you're giving us all this information.
Yep.
What can we do for you? What do you need from us?
The question that I have for you, gentlemen, tonight is, how do I get my hair back quickly, or at least thicker? I've lost a significant amount of hair. I was checking out PRP. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I really don't have a lot of good...
Let me tell you something, dude. If I can answer that question that you just asked...
Sure.
I would not be sitting behind this mic anymore. How can I get my hair back quickly?
I can answer that. I can answer that one very easily.
Sure.
You can get your hair back quickly by going to a wig joint.
Yes,
that's how you get your hair back quickly.
Well, you can get some Asian or some Indian Asian woman's hair back. Well, look. I guess the good news about that is, I mean, they'll never get you for a crime. They'll think it's some 14-year-old Indian chick.
So wait, let me kind of add more to that question. Since I'm in telogen effluvium, is there any way to reverse that quicker?
No.
Okay. No. So you just have to wait it out.
Yeah, you have to run its course.
Okay.
All right, now?
Yeah. Whenever that finishes. So do you guys have any ups or downs about PRP?
Listen, excuse me, my yawning. I didn't get much sleep last night. Listen, I've seen PRP really change people's lives around, and I've seen plenty of guys who've gotten PRP or have heard from them who say they've gotten zero results or they even went through a shed. I think again, what we always say is that PRP is not created equal. All PRP is not created equal, and it can help some people. And frankly, in some cases, if you're going through an active telogen effluvium, I have, at least anecdotally, been privy to some evidence that that may be one thing that can kind of slow it down or, kind of possibly reverse it. But there is nothing clinical showing that. So I would say at your point, if you're going through an active telogen effluvium, if you're really concerned about, what the final end game is, I don't think there's any harm in doing it because the chances are you're going to be progressing anyway.
All right.
So, I mean, why not?
Yeah, just try it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, man. Listen, good luck.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
okay,
guys.
you got it.
Thanks for
Sorry
calling.
you're going through all this. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night. Sorry for anyone who's holding on. Joe, sorry for the issues. Some of it may be on my end. I was looking at my speed. It wasn't hard. I mean, it was about half of what I normally get, but it was still good enough.
Yeah.
So
that's still fast. And I double checked on the machine that I'm actually connecting to you with, and I'm almost a gigabit down and up. So
that's unbelievable. I'm actually, I'm like up. I'm like, I think it was like 72 megabits.
Which is still
it's fast
plenty.
as shit, but my download wasn't that great. It was about the same, which should be a minimum of, 300 or 400.
What's your millisecond? What's your actual connection time?
The ping was 2.
Okay, yeah.
So it's
nothing wrong with that.
But it's still a little slower.
It's Zarian's problem. We'll blame him.
I don't know what it is, dude. Guys, we're going. We can't take any more phone calls. I really appreciate you guys calling, but we are already 7 minutes past the hour. I got to go. I know Joe has to go.
I want to answer a question real quick. Nico says, Nico F., our buddy in the chat room, can Lonington speed up regrowth from telogen effluvium? Let me put it like this, okay, and this will answer the question from the previous caller as well. Anything you introduce to fix a telogen effluvium issue can prolong the telogen effluvium issue because you're introducing another element that can cause your hair to react, and then hair doesn't always react positively, it can react negatively. So I hope that answers the question.
All right, listen, we gave out the websites. I'll give out our websites, hairtransplantmentor.com. That's Joe Tillman's personal website. Check it out, everything Joe Tillman, and you can get a lot of great information about hair transplantation and hair loss, and you can learn about Joe's personal story. Check out thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Also, check out Joe's YouTube page if you are listening on iTunes or iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, wherever else you may be tuning into the broadcast, GFQ, Guys from Queens Network. subscribe to Joe's page. It's youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. And you can also subscribe to us on iTunes. So subscribe to The Bald Truth on iTunes. That would be great. Also, there's a lot of websites. I got to get like one URL for all these sites, if possible.
Just go to this one website. It's got everything.
It's got everything you need. American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. If you're interested in surgical hair restoration, check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, which is IAHRS.org. And, of course, our message forum, baldtruthtalk.com, if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers. We try to keep it to, as safe as possible. It's a heavily moderated forum. So if you feel or think that you're being censored, and I'm using air quotes, because you're writing some nasty shit about somebody and it's not allowed on the forum, we're sorry. It's a private forum. It's a private URL. That's the way it works. I love when people fight about freedom of speech and they think that they can say everything that they want, and that's inclusive of being of the First Amendment. They could defame people. They can, it's kind of like going into somebody's store, brick and mortar store, and saying, this place sucks, and just allow that person to sit there and scream. Would that fly? It would not. So, yes, we do moderate the forum. We try to keep it safe for everyone involved. We have no PMing system. I'm sorry, guys, but that's a nasty place. The PMing, the back end of hair loss and hair transplant websites are bad places. You don't want to be involved in them. You're going to be sold shit. People are going to, if you're a physician, physicians are losing plenty of patients because of PMing. And it's unfortunate because a lot of the guys that take the time to steal people's patients are the bad guys. They are the guys who are doing the worst of the worst work, just trying to get people on price. So, guys, if you're using any message form, just take it with a grain of salt. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that would be splendid. Thank you. Good night.